Hello, everyone. Welcome to the start of the NFL season. Welcome to the start of the 2025 edition of the Road to 272 Bets. There are 272 NFL regular season games. I place a bet on all 272 of them. This is my sixth year doing the Road to 272. I'm excited to go on this journey once again. It's a long one. It's a hard one, but it is a journey that I love taking every single year. Quick recap of how the Road to 272 has done over the years. Then we're going to do a little bit of housekeeping. I'm actually going to give you guys some tips on how to win money betting on the NFL this season. And then, of course, I will dive into my best bets for all 16 NFL Week 1 games. So recap of how I've done throughout the years. Last year was my second of 2 losing seasons. I've had 3 profitable years. I've had 2 losing years. Last year was unfortunately the worst year of the Road to 272. But the overall record, where I sit through the first 5 years of the Road to 272 is 680 wins, 638 losses, 26 pushes for plus 9.45 units. So we are still up almost 10 units through 5 seasons worth of betting on every single NFL game. So I'm going to go over some rules and some things that I follow myself for the Road to 272. If you just want to go ahead and skip to the picks, I have all the timestamps in the description below of when I start the picks, and I will timestamp all the individual games if you want to skip through to a specific game that I'm going to talk about. Before I do that, though, I do want to encourage you all to join my Survivor Pool, my Survivor League, the official Road to 272 Survivor League. It is now open. It is $30 for entry, $30 US, by the way. So if you are Canadian, you can play in Canada. I'm in Canada. I'm in Toronto, but it will cost you a little bit more because you obviously have to do the conversion to Canadian. But $30 US to enter. You're allowed up to 3 entries max. The pool itself holds 200 entries is the maximum amount of entries for the entire pool. If we get it all the way up to 200 entries, then the winner of the Survivor Pool will win $5.7 thousand, $5,700 US. So that is the upside, actually. If you're in Canada, it might cost you a little bit more to enter, but you win 5.7 US, which is what? $8,000 Canadian, possibly $7,000 Canadian. A little bit of a boost if you do survive. If you don't know the rules, it's pretty simple. You pick one team to win each week. If that team wins, doesn't have to cover a spread, nothing to do with the point spread. All they need to do is win. You advance to the next week. Obviously, the twist is that you can only use each team once. So if you use the Eagles in week 1, you aren't able to use them again the rest of the season. So the link to my Survivor Pool is in the description. Whether you're watching this on YouTube or listening to this in audio form, you'll find the link to join that Survivor Pool in the description. I will also, and have also, tweeted out the link to join a number of times over the past few days. So you can just check out my Twitter at Iain MacBets, and you will find it there. Please join that. It'd be nice if we get that as full as possible. All right, let's, before we get the season started here, I wanted to kind of break down how you can win at betting on the NFL. And yeah, maybe that was a little bit of clickbait, because my actual answer to that is you can't. To be honest, you can. But as us casual bettors, which I'm assuming 99.9% of you listening to this, you are a casual bettor. I am myself. I'm not a professional bettor. I don't bet for a living in the sense that I don't make a living based off my winnings. And trust me when I say you are no different. Just because you think you know ball does not, even if you do know ball, that does not mean that you're going to be able to make long-term money betting on sports or betting on the NFL. It doesn't matter what gimmick you use, what strategy you use. You are most likely not going to be able to make money betting on the NFL. So do it for entertainment purposes. Now, if you are extremely convinced that you do want to have a career as a professional sports bettor, maybe even a semi-pro sports bettor, it is possible. There are certainly a lot of people out there who do it. What I would recommend for any of you people who are out there who are interested in that is to check out the book called The Logic of Sports Betting, written by Ed Miller and Matthew Davidow. You should read that book, even if you're a casual bettor. If you are a bit of a reader, check that book out. it is really the base. It'll give you a base knowledge of what needs to be done to win at sports betting and all the logic behind it. So yes, even though I am up almost 10 units over the past 5 years betting on every single game, most of that is probably variance. That's why I've had one season that I won over 25 units, and then I had last season where I lost over 13 units. It is possibly a pro sports bettor that those do exist, but that life and how they make money betting on sports is not the same way that you think that it is. It is not a glorious life. It is a grind. These guys sit at their desks all night. They piss in jars because they don't want to miss the 10 seconds a line might be available at some obscure book. You can do it, but it is not certainly a glorious life, to say the least. You also have to bet big money, which I don't recommend doing. I would not feel comfortable doing that, and I don't think you would either. With all of that being said, what I can break down is 7 steps that I think help you lose less money, which is really the goal at the end of the day. My goal for the road to 272 is to finish profitable. If that means being up 0.1 units, then I consider the season a success. Because to me, and it's the way that you should think about betting on sports as well, it is a form of entertainment, and it makes watching the games more fun. I also enjoy trying to figure out which side I want to bet on, which bet I want to take. The whole process from start to finish is fun. So if I can finish the season even, then it's kind of free entertainment. So these are 7 steps that I would recommend you following. These are 7 steps that I follow if you want to lose the least amount of money possible, and or maybe even if a few things break your way, finish the season with a profit, which is certainly possible. Step number 1, and this one is probably the easiest thing you can do to help you win money betting on the NFL and sports in general, but it's one that I see almost no one follow. And that is have an account at as many different sports books as possible. That is to ensure that you are always getting the best odds when you are betting on a game. I see so many people, they are just loyal to one sports book and they will bet only at that one sports book. Now, those people, they think, okay, I could sign up at Caesars and get, for example, the Falcons at plus 2.5 minus 105, or I could just bet on my normal account, DraftKings, at plus 2.5 minus 110. And thinking that difference between minus 105 and minus 110 isn't that big of a deal. It's not worth opening up a new account. Believe me when I say those small differences add up over the long period of time. And it's not only just, a juice on a spread. It might be a whole point on the spread. If you bet player props, especially touchdown scores, it could be, a difference between a plus 300 bet and a plus 500 bet, which adds up quickly. So the best piece of advice I can advise for you, now I know it's difficult if you live in a state where it's not regulated yet. I also know there are some states where there's only a small handful of books that are regulated. I know when I lived in New York, I had like 5 or 6 to choose from. I am lucky that now I live in Ontario, Canada, which might be the best place in North America to be better because there are just an unlimited amount of sports books, regulated sports books. But yeah, to the best of your ability, the easiest way to help you not lose as much money as you normally would, or maybe even win money, is to have an account at as many different sports books as possible. And when you go to place a bet, find out which of those sports books are giving you the best odds. You can, if you don't want to log into every single account individually, there are odds screens available where you can see the odds from all the different sports books on one screen and find out which one is offering the best odds for the bet you're trying to place. Piece of advice number 2, don't wait until Sunday morning to place your bets. This is another thing that a lot of very casual bettors do. You wake up Sunday morning, it's an hour before kickoff, you decide to get all your bets in then. That is when the betting market is at its most efficient. You will not find an edge on any market in the NFL if you're betting an hour before kickoff. Or I shouldn't say any. 99% of NFL markets are not going to find an edge right before kickoff. If you are confident in a play, bet it early in the week. If you're on the right side of it, the line will move that direction, and you will get what is called CLV, which stands for closing line value, which means if the Packers, maybe you bet them at -2 during the week and they close -3, you got a point of closing line value. Now, there are people out there that tell you CLV means nothing. That is stupid. Of course it means something, and this is, just like I was talking about earlier with getting the best odds at the right sports book. Over the long period of time, it's only going to work in your favor. Now, most games, getting a point of CLV is not going to make a difference, but those few times it does, that'll add up over the long period of time. And of course, CLV means something. If someone offered you, if your buddy said, I'll give you Packers -2, or someone else said, I'll give you Packers -3, you're obviously going to take the bet with the guy who is offering you the Packers at -2. So obviously it means something. If you say it doesn't mean anything, well, you're just being silly. With that being said, getting CLV does not guarantee that you're going to win the bet. I think it was like 7 points at CLV in a college football game in week 0. Was it UNLV? I got them at like -22 and they closed like -27 or something. And they ended up like winning by 3 points. So it didn't mean anything regardless. But like I said, over the long period of time, those small wins that do work in your favor for getting a CLV will make a difference. Rule number 3, don't chase your bets. Gamble responsibly. Don't think, oh, I've lost 8 bets in a row. There's no way I'm going to lose 9 bets in a row. I'm going to place a big bet on this 9th bet to try to win back all the losses I had in the first 8 bets. Trust me, you can you can lose 9 bets in a row. You can lose 10 bets in a row. You can lose 20 bets in a row. It is absolutely possible. Don't fall for gambler's fallacy. Don't think just because you've lost 8 bets in a row means that you're due for bet number 9. That is not true. Don't chase your losses. Even if you're down, stick to the process and stick to the same unit size for your bets. Tip number 4, stay away from the lottery ticket parlays, which are becoming more and more popular if you're on social media, if you're on TikTok, if you're on sports betting Twitter, X, I guess it's called now. Don't fall for these. I saw them, multiple times every single day during the MLB season. They'd be home run parlays where, people would bet $5 and it would have a payout of 50 grand, and you see one person bet it and you think, oh, it's not that hard. Well, one person wins the lottery every week too. That doesn't mean that you should go buy a bunch of lottery tickets. I call them lottery ticket parlays for a reason. Now, most parlays are not plus EV, expected value. There are certain ways you can do parlays where you can get some expected value. Generally, I would recommend, at the very least, stay away from these home run parlays or lottery ticket parlays. Don't bet, 6 first touchdown score bets on a Sunday and think that you're going to win. That is a quick way to lose money this NFL season. And you don't want to lose the profit you gained with smart bets by losing it on stupid bets. With that being said, I occasionally do play stupid bets myself. So if you want to occasionally, go ahead. But just realize that those aren't going to work in the long run. Step number 5, don't buy picks. Dub Club is becoming big. Professional bettors who really know what they're doing, the large majority of them don't sell picks. Because if they have an edge, they don't want to give it out. And if they have an edge, it's probably gone by the time you've received the pick anyways. So as a general rule of thumb, just don't buy picks. The large majority of people who do are scammers. They don't release verified records. If you do start tracking their records, they will try to sue you. Just because a guy has a fancy mustache and he releases a magazine every single year with his NFL preview, and he changes last name to make him sound like he's a Sharp, by quite literally changing last name to Sharp. Don't buy picks. All of those people are scammers. None of them, very, very, very few of them are actual long-term winners and are doing what actual professional bettors do. So as a general rule of thumb, don't buy picks. You'd be better off just making your own picks and saving the money that you would spend buying those picks. Don't bet. Rule number 6, don't bet based on things like trends or public money. Trends, if you hear like the Chiefs are 7-1 against the spread at home to the Chargers in their last 8 games. You know what? I bet you they're 7-2 in their last 9 games. You know what I'm saying? All these trends always have these arbitrary cutoff lines to make the trends sound better than what they are. They might be interesting tidbits, but that is just about it. Do not fall for these trends. They mean literally nothing. If you flip a coin 8 times and it lands on heads 6 times, so it's, heads is 6-2 in my last 8 coin flips. Does that mean now on the 9th coin flip that you should take heads? Probably not. It truly is that simple when it comes to the NFL. These are different teams, different situations, different spreads. Trends mean nothing. The other thing which is becoming popular is, all the public is on this side. That bet's a losing bet. You got to go on the opposite side. You got to side with the sharps, they say. If you followed that strategy last year, you lost a lot of money because the public side was right more often than not last NFL season. And the public side doesn't even really mean anything to begin with. Because when you see those sites that gather that information, what line were those bets placed at? Were they placed at the opening line, the closing line, somewhere in between? And a lot of the time you'll see sharp bettors who are professional bettors being on opposite sides. It's not like a memo goes out to all the sharp bettors that are, and they'll, tell each other, okay, we're going to take this side of Chargers Chiefs. We're all going to be on Chargers +3. The other side's the public side. We have the sharp side. That's not the way these things work. So the information you're getting is flawed to begin with, and then thinking automatically that if you take the unpopular side, it's the right bet to place. That is also incorrect logic. Don't forget that in a -110 bet, if you're laying -110, which most spreads are, the book gets +110. So even if you think you're on the side of the sports book, don't forget, they're getting +110 odds because of the juice. You're getting -110 odds. So being on the side the sportsbook needs in every single game, that's not going to work long-term either, because they're playing with completely different odds based on the vig and the juice that they're charging people. My final tip for betting this NFL season is to look at a game. Don't look at the odds. Look at a game. Let's say it is Falcons Buccaneers this weekend. Before you even look at what the odds are, use a method, whether that's just things you heard about the offseason, whether that's past results, whether it's certain metrics you want to look at. Come up with a spread in your head and then look at the line. What that's going to do is that's going to, because if you don't do that, a lot of the time you're just going to bet on the favorite because you think they're the better team. But if you come up with a spread, and let's say the spread this weekend between the Buccaneers and Falcons, you think the Buccaneers are a better team, but you think the Buccaneers should be a 1.5 point favorite. You look at the spread, it's actually 2.5. So even though you think the Buccaneers should be favored, the right side, based on what you think the spread would be, or should be, would be the Falcons at +2.5, even if you know or think that the Buccaneers are the better team. So come up with the spread or the total or the player prop in your head, and then look at the odds. And then determine which side you think has value based on the number that you've come to and the spread that's available. That is, in simple terms, bottom-up betting or bottom-top betting. Now, people who do that are originators who have algorithms and, computer programs to spit out those numbers. But still, it is generally a good strategy because what that's going to do is, in my opinion, that's going to lead you to not always necessarily betting on the better team, which typically you will see for casual bettors. They just bet the better team and lay the number no matter what. Because they know that they're the better team. But hey, even if one team's better, the underdog might be the side to bet because of how many points they're getting on the point spread. So those are my 7 tips for maybe not winning betting on the NFL this season, but not losing as much as you normally would. Now, let's get into the road to 272 bets. Like I said earlier, this is my 6th season doing the road to 272. I started in 2020, so I started the COVID year. I was profitable that year. 2021 was my biggest season to date. I won over 25 units in 2021. I lost in 2022 a little over 12 units. I then won a small amount in 2023, up 3.96. I then lost 13.45 last year to sitting at, like I said earlier, 680 wins, 638 losses, 26 pushes for plus 9.45 units. These are the rules that I'm following this year and that I have followed last year. There will be some slight adjustments. Rule number 1, and this is the backbone of the road to 272. I have to place one bet on all 272 games, no matter how little confidence I have in a bet or in a game. No matter how much I'm confused by a line or a total, I have to place one bet on all 272 games. All 272 bets will be one flat unit. I do not bet to win 1 unit. I bet 1 unit to win. So in most cases, if I'm betting 1 unit at a -110 spread, it would win 0.91 units. I do not bet to win 1 unit. I bet 1 flat unit. If I bet on a big underdog, it's 1 unit. If I bet on a spread or a total, no matter how confident I am, 1 unit, 1 unit, 1 unit, just to keep things as easy and as simple to understand. And that way, I can't, heading into the last week, just place a 10 unit bet on a team and hope to win all my losses in one game. To keep things as straight and as straight as I can, just 1 flat unit on every single bet. All bets will be on a spread, a total, or a money line underdog. No props for the road to 272. It is spread, total, or money line if it's on the underdog. I am not allowed to bet on a money line favorite. Has to be spread, total, or money line if it's an underdog. I must place at least one money line underdog bet each week. This is what killed me last year. I actually won money. If you looked at just my spreads and total picks last year, I was actually up money, but I think I might have I only won like 2 upset picks last year, which is what killed me. The year that I won a ton, that I won like over 25 units, I ended up cashing a ton of those big money line underdogs. So that kind of seems to be what is the swing for me every single year. But yes, at least one money line underdog bet each week. It can be small. It can be, I think this week is a plus 115 underdog. It can be big, and it can be more than one. But at the end of the day, every week it has to be at least one money line underdog bet. Rule number 5, all bets will be placed at regulated sports books. I cannot bet on offshore sports books. I cannot bet at PPH sports books. I can't bet, the local bookie down the street. They all have to be regulated sports books. Now, the difference between last year and this year is last year I lived in New York, so I only had like 5 or 6 to choose from. This year I'm in Ontario. So that is going to be a big difference because I have a ton of sports books, and I have sports books available to me that you, and if you listen to this from the United States, probably don't have access to. One of them that I already know from week 1 that I'm going to use quite a bit is Pinnacle. I don't know the exact areas that it's available. I know in Canada it's only Ontario, I believe. So I am going to be placing a lot of bets at Pinnacle. There are some sports books, though, that do have crossover with the U.S. I will be using FanDuel a lot. I'll be using DraftKings a lot. BetMGM and Caesars are the big ones that are available both in the U.S. and in Canada, and I will be using those quite a bit. So you will see all of those, and actually this brings me to my last rule. All my bets will be tracked on my BetStamp account. I like to use BetStamp because you can't edit your picks. You can't do any weird things to kind of fudge the numbers at all. Now, I make the picks private until the games kick off, and then you'll be able to see them afterwards. I do that so it will force you all to either read my article or listen to the podcast. I can't let you just go to BetStamp and get all my picks because I get nothing for that. I at least need a page view. More preferably, I get a download or listen. But when those picks are made public, when the games kick off, you will be able to see which sportsbook I placed it at and at what time, and you will see that it's a verified bet, and it's a verified bet at a regulated sportsbook in Ontario, Canada. But once again, most bets are actually going to be at one of the big sportsbooks: FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM, or Caesars. Now, the biggest difference between last year and this year is in previous years, I would not place the bets until right before I recorded on Monday nights. I'm changing that this year. I've put myself behind the 8 ball a lot, especially last year. I was losing CLV. I would see a line that would get released on Sunday night. I'd love one side of it, and by the time Monday night came around, it moved 2 points. So I will now be allowing myself to place the bet anytime after when the lines get released on Sunday night up until I record. Now, I'm still going to keep the rule that once I have recorded, like, all the bets need to be placed by the time I do record on Monday night, as long as the line is available. So I might place it a little bit earlier than I did before, but still they will all be locked in by the time I record on Monday nights. If I do bet a game on Sunday night and it has moved significantly by the time I record Monday night, I will address that, and I will tell you what pick I would like based on the most current lines. But the road to 272, it's hard to finish profitable. I need to give myself every advantage I can based on the fact I'm betting on all 272 games. One of the ways I'm going to help myself out this year is by allowing myself to place bets when the lines release on Sunday night. So there you go. That's my recap. That's my rules. That's my tips for you for betting this NFL season. All of that stuff is out of the way. It is time to get into it. We're here, baby. It's been a long off season. The 2025 edition of the Road to 272 Bets starts now. All right, let's get into it. Opening night, the defending Super Bowl champions Philadelphia Eagles hosting the Dallas Cowboys. Mike Parsons not going to be there anymore, obviously, with him being in Green Bay. I hate to do this. I feel like I do this more often than not when it comes to opening night. I place the most boring and frustrating bet to have to cheer for. But we'll have more fun on Friday night. Opening night, Cowboys, Eagles. I'm going to go under 47.5. I think this total is a little bit too high. The spread is exactly at what I think it should be at 7.5, so I don't have an edge on the spread. I think the total is the way to go here. I'm going to bet on the best unit that's going to be on the field, which is the Eagles defense. I think a lot of people, when they think of the Eagles, obviously they think of Saquon Barkley and the Eagles offense, but truly the most dominant unit for the Eagles and the reason why they won the Super Bowl last year is their defense. Fewest yards per play in the NFL last season, just gave up 4.8. They also ranked first in opponent success rate, third in opponent EPA per play, and they didn't really lose anyone in the offseason for me to really think that they're going to fall off a cliff. Also, I don't believe in the Cowboys offense. I know George Pickens was added to the Cowboys offense, but people forget that Dak Prescott was having his worst season as a pro last year before he went down with an injury. 8 starts last season, completed just 64.7% of passes, 11 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. I think this total is too high for a game involving the Eagles, which is a team who relies on their defense and running the football. They run the ball more than any other team, or at least they did last year, ran the ball more than any other team in the NFL. They play strong defense. But at the same time, with the spread being at that 7.5, that's just a little bit too much. That's a little bit too much for a point spread on an opening night, where we really don't know too much what to expect, especially from the Cowboys. I think this total is too high for a game involving a defense this good. So I'll take the under 47.5 on opening night between the Eagles and the Cowboys. Friday night in Brazil. I don't know why the NFL is still going to Brazil. I guess grow the game, sure, all that stuff. The field was trash last year, so let's hope the field gets better. I know Jordan Love had an injury last year when it was Packers-Eagles. And Brazil, let's hope. Let's just stay safe here, fellas. No major injuries from the Chiefs and Chargers, please. I hate to do this because last year I was the number one biggest Chiefs hater in the world. I was rightfully called them frauds, which I think in the Super Bowl they were exposed to be exactly that. I think people are now getting. I think the pendulum's swinging a little too far the other way with the Chiefs. I think people, when they think of the Chiefs right now, I think the only thing they think of is the Super Bowl, which, yes, where the Eagles are the better team, sure. But the Chiefs were a lot better than what the final score in that game was. That was a bad game for Kansas City. That was a perfect game by the Eagles. Let's not forget this Chiefs team won. They were 15-1 again in the last week when they benched all their starters. Yes, a lot of those games were, I caution to use the word luck, but they definitely fell on the right side of variance quite a bit. But this is still Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes. This is still the best quarterback and head coach duo in the NFL. They're a little bit more healthy this year. I know Rashee Rice is still out, but this Chiefs team is certainly not bad. I don't think they lose the AFC West, and it just scares me because this Chiefs team reminds me so much of the Patriots teams from the 2000s and the 2010s, and it seemed like every 4 years the Patriots would have not a great season or they look bad in the playoffs. And then people would be like, oh, this is the year that the Patriots take a step back. This is the year that the Patriots finally regress. Tom Brady finally going to regress. And then what would happen? They would come out and dominate everyone. So I'm afraid to fall for that trap with the Chiefs like I did for the Patriots all the time during their 20 years of dominance. So I am going to bet back the Chiefs -3, -111, or the odds I got. I believe that was at Pinnacle. I'm concerned about the Chargers. I mean, I still think the Chiefs are a very complete team. Like I said, Mahomes, Reed, best coach quarterback combo in the NFL. I think they have more confidence in their identity. I think the Chargers have a few too many question marks, especially going into this season. Now, this could be a situation where the second time these two teams play, I might back the Chargers, depending on the spread. But the Chargers are still trying to find out who their number 2 receiver is. We kind of don't really know what's going to happen at running back. I know, obviously, they have Omario Hampton. Is that his first name? The rookie running back, but Najee Harris might play. who really knows there? Rashawn Slater is obviously out for the season, so they have, a question they have to answer at offensive tackle. There's just too many question marks with the Chargers heading into week 1 that we don't know the answer to. That makes me nervous with a spread as small as this against the Chiefs. I will back Kansas City -3 on Friday night in Brazil. Moving on to Sunday's action. I will let you know how I bet on week 1, and I think it is how you should bet on week 1 as well. We've had a long off season now. We've all had our individual opinions about these teams. We, know what they've done and haven't done, how their draft went, how free agency went. Your preseason feelings about teams should be how you bet on week 1, because we don't have metrics. We have metrics from last year, but that's different coaching staffs, different rosters, different year. So it should be a small portion of what they did last year, but it also should be based on how you feel these teams are going to be based on public perception. For example, this game that I'm about to talk about, the Raiders and the Patriots. The Patriots are a team that a lot of people are high on. They're, I think they have a win total at 7.5 or maybe even 8.5. They're like, they have somewhat actually short odds to make the playoffs. I think they're like plus 120 to make the playoffs. They are a team that in the betting market, they are being valued very high compared to last year. I'm not ready to take that leap. I think the betting market is overvaluing the Patriots. So because of that, I'm going to fade them in week 1, because if the betting market is overvaluing them, then them being 3-point favorites against the Raiders is I think is too steep. If they're overvalued in the futures market, you can confidently probably say they're, in your opinion, they would be overvalued in week 1. And I would agree with that. They're 3-point favorites. I'm going to take the Raiders plus 3 at -115. I just don't know if there's enough there for me to believe in this Patriots team yet. I know obviously Mike Vrabel is a good coach. Drake May had a very solid rookie season. I'm not ready to crown him the next franchise quarterback for the Patriots. Let's not forget Mac Jones had a very solid rookie season for the Patriots. Was he rookie of the year? He might have been rookie of the year. Was Mac Jones rookie of the year? Mac Jones. I'm just going to look this up, but while no, he was second in the voting for offensive rookie of the year. Who won that year? Jamar Chase won Rookie of the Year, but it was Mac Jones was second in Rookie of the Year voting, and I'm pretty sure he went to the Pro Bowl. And now we know what happens to Mac Jones. I'm just saying, don't all of a sudden crown these second-year quarterbacks as franchise quarterbacks quite yet. And also, the Patriots just don't have the offensive weapons yet. Like a washed Stephon Diggs is their best receiver. I don't know. I'm not ready to buy in on the Patriots just quite yet. The Raiders, we'll see what happens with Pete Carroll, if he can still coach at his age. But Geno Smith, I mean, that's at least a high floor quarterback, or at least a medium floor quarterback. I like the rookie receivers. Brock Bowers obviously should have a big year. We'll see what happens with Ashton Genty, but I'll take the field goal with the Raiders in this one. +3 -115. Bengals and Browns. I talked about this in my season preview episode. I love that the Bengals finally played their starters their starters in the preseason. It's been an issue for them year after year. They don't play their starters in the preseason. They get to the regular season, they get off to a slow start. I think they're 0-3, 0-4 to start last year, 1-4, 1-3, and it's been the same story now for a number of years, and then they get behind the 8 ball, and then it's too little too late when they try to make the playoffs. This year, they played their starters in the preseason, they look good in the preseason, and I think that's going to translate now to week 1. They have been an auto bet against, an auto fade in week 1 the past number of years. Now I think because of the fact they played their starters in the preseason, they're treating this week 1 in a completely different light. I'm going to back the Bengals -5.5, -107 against the Browns. The Browns team who I know Joe Flacco was their best option, but he's got to regress at some point, right? I know that he went on that nice late season run with the Browns 2 years ago when he led them in the playoffs, but he was bad last year when he was with Indianapolis. So I'm not ready to, consider the Browns a legitimate NFL team with Joe Flacco at quarterback. Joe Flacco, who is 40 years old? 40 years old, Joe Flacco. Yeah. I think the Browns get steamrolled in this game. I will take the Bengals -5.5, -105. The Cardinals and the Saints, I think this one is pretty easy here. I'm going to take the Cardinals -6.5 minus 110 against the Saints. Listen, the Saints are being projected as the worst team in the NFL. I'm not going to argue with people. Well, I prayed for times like these. The Saints are the worst team in the NFL, and the Patriots aren't nearly what they used to be either. What a world we're living in. Now, if only the Falcons could get good, then we're cooking with gas. But I've talked about this, my theory with the Cardinals before. I think the time to bet on the Cardinals is early in the season. Kyler Murray regresses as the season goes on, whether it's his size and he gets kind of beaten up as the season goes on, or if it's his lack of film watching, which has been proven, catches up with him as the season goes on, or whether it's a mixture of the two. The time to bet on the Cardinals, the time to bet on Kyler Murray is early in the season. And let's not forget the Saints starting quarterback is Spencer Rattler, who was 0-6 as a starter last year. He completed 57% of passes, 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. If you remember the Spencer Rattler offenses late in the year last year, it was bad. I won a fantasy league because I think it was the Broncos. I had the Broncos defense and they shut the Saints out. Like, literally the only way I could win was for them to get a shutout, and they did. The Saints stink. They didn't really do anything to improve. Their best offensive weapon is an 87-year-old Alvin Kamara and then like Chris Olave. Not a team I want to back at under a touchdown against just about anyone in the NFL. Certainly not a Cardinals team who seems to usually get off to a hot start. I will lay the points of the Cardinals minus 6.5, minus 110. Giants and Commanders. I said earlier my strategy is to fade teams that I'm low on compared to public perception, and one of those teams is the Washington Commanders. They are taking on the Giants in week 1. I will take the Giants plus 6.5, minus 118. Washington, I think they're going to take a step back this season. I think there's a lot of things they did last year that led to their really good record that they can't repeat this year. They had a lot of late games go their way. A lot of late game variance went their way. Let's not forget, obviously, the Hail Mary against the Bears. Let's not forget the comeback against the Eagles after Jalen Hurts got hurt. Let's also consider they converted 78.95% of fourth down attempts, which is by far the best mark in the NFL. Converting that many fourth downs is going to be near impossible to repeat, and they had an extremely easy schedule. As a result of that, I think the betting market is too high on this Commanders team. I think this Commanders team is going to do exactly what the Texans did last year, which 2 years ago, they were probably played to a better record than they should have. Last year, everyone was high on the Texans. They called them a dark horse. And they didn't take a huge step back, but they certainly took a little bit of a step back, and I expect that to be the case for the Commanders. The Giants' pass rush is going to be one of the best pass rushes in the NFL, so that could be enough to disrupt Jaden Daniels. And say what you will about Russell Wilson, I mean, he's something. He's a quarterback. He can get your team a couple points. I think the Giants can keep this game within 6.5. I'll take the Giants plus 6.5 minus 118. The Panthers and the Jaguars, I have 2 totals bets this week. I believe it's just 2. This is the other one. It is Panthers, Jaguars over 46.5. Jaguars over 46.5 minus 110. This one's pretty easy. I'm just banking kind of off last year's information. But the information is so strong to one side that I can't ignore it. These 2 defenses, the Jaguars and Panthers, ranked 31st and 32nd in opponent yards per play, 31st and 32nd in opponent EPA per play. By many metrics, these were the 2 worst defenses in the NFL. So you think about the opening night has a game that features one of the best defenses in the Eagles defense. That's a total at 47.5. This total, which features the 2 worst defenses from last year, has a total of 46.5. That does not make any sense to me. Now, obviously, the Panthers and Jaguars offenses are certainly not the Eagles offense. But, a healthy Trevor Lawrence, a healthy Jaguars offense with Liam Cohen as their head coach, who's an offensive-minded guy. And then the Panthers with Bryce Young, who looked much better in the second half of the season last year. I think both offenses take a step forward this year. And I think for both teams, the offenses are significantly better than their defenses. I will take the over 46.5, minus 110. Dolphins and Colts. I don't really have a huge breakdown for this game, to be honest. I just am, I talked earlier at the start of the show, strategies. for betting on the NFL, and I just said, make the spread in your head and then, compare that to the line and then bet the side that has value. In no way do I have the Dolphins as underdogs to the Colts. Like, I have the Dolphins as, 1.5 point favorites, maybe 2 point favorites, or 1.5 point underdogs. Daniel Jones is their quarterback for the Colts. I know the Dolphins, kind of all the news coming out about Miami is that their locker room's in disarray. Can we prove that? That seems like a lot of hearsay. That seems like a lot of preseason talk. Now, I'm kind of do believe it, but I'm not going to base bets on that. I've talked in the past, so I think Mike McDaniel is too much of a player's coach, and now he's so much of a player's coach that the players actually don't respect him. But at the end of the day, let's just look at the talent levels of these two teams. It's the Dolphins by a mile. The Dolphins have speed. The Dolphins have skill. The Dolphins have by far the better quarterback. Now, I know this game's in Indianapolis, but in no world, in my opinion, should the Dolphins be an underdog in this spot. I think this is a lot of hearsay about the Dolphins organization that's causing this. I will take the Dolphins plus 1.5, and I won't hesitate at minus 108. Steelers and Jets. I'm going to back the Steelers at minus 2.5, minus 114. I just can't back a team that's quarterbacked by Justin Fields. Pretty straightforward. Also, Justin Fields obviously played for the Steelers last year. That tells me Mike Tomlin, who I still think is one of the best coaches in the NFL in recent NFL history, actually, he's going to know how to, draw up a defense to shut down Justin Fields. I said on the preview podcast, I think the Jets might run the ball every single play this season, which would be hilarious. But until I see them, produce any level of offense, I'm going to bet against them. I am cautiously optimistic about Aaron Rodgers. He did have his best games late in the year last year. Maybe that tells me that the injury was still bothering him early in the year. Maybe the year of rust because he didn't play because he was hurt bothered him. I think he's not going to obviously look close to the Aaron Rodgers he used to be, but I do think Aaron Rodgers is going to look better this season than he did last season. Kind of makes me... Obviously, he kind of has followed the career trajectory of Brett Favre, but Brett Favre, remember, he was in Green Bay, then he went to the Jets, and he was not good with the Jets, and then he went to Minnesota, and he had one more, really good year. I think... Now, I want to check that. He did go from Jets then to Minnesota, right? It wasn't Minnesota to the Jets. Because this is going to ruin my theory. Yeah, I was right. Jets, and he was not good. Jets went 9-7. Statistically not very good. And then he went to Minnesota. And then he had a really 12-4. I think they lost the NFC Championship game. He was number 4 in MVP voting in 2009. I could see a similar thing with Aaron Rodgers. Not a great year last year. And then he goes to Steelers and, maybe not AFC Championship like Brett Favre did with the Vikings. But I could see him having a pretty solid year. I think DK Metcalf's going to be great for him. I'm still very high in Mike Tomlin. I like the Steelers here in this spot. Minus 2.5, minus 114. The Buccaneers and Falcons. I have to be unbiased here. I'm going to take the Buccaneers minus 2.5, minus 103. I really don't like how Raheem Morris handled this team in the preseason. Every other team or most other teams in the NFL have learned that you have to play your starters in the preseason. Raheem Morris didn't. And not only that, Michael Penix Jr. only has 3 starts in the NFL. He's going into his first year as a full-time starter. He needed preseason reps. And I think it's going to be evident in week 1 that the Falcons didn't play their starters in the preseason. I think the Falcons this year are going to get very hot in the second half of the season because all their tough games are in the first half, and then they play a cupcake schedule in the second half. I think they're going to not only start slow, they have a difficult schedule to start the season. I think the Falcons are going to start 3-5, but then finish 10-7. The Buccaneers play their starters a little bit in the preseason, and the Buccaneers don't really have a weakness. The Falcons still have a weakness in the defensive secondary, which I'm not crazy about. Caleb McGarry has now left a wide open weakness at right tackle. The Buccaneers might not be elite in very many areas, but I can't think of any area that Tampa Bay is weak in. And I think that's going to make a significant difference in this game. And I think the Falcons are going to look rusty, and they're going to get out of the gate slow. And I think that'll lead to the Buccaneers winning and covering. As 2.5 point favorites, I'll take the Buccaneers minus 2.5, minus 103. Titans and Broncos. I'm low-key high on the Titans again this year. Enough time has passed. I'm over the disaster that the Titans were for me last year. I'm back on the Titans. Hear me out. And I mean, if you listened last year, you know my thoughts on the Titans. I thought they were a way better team than their record showed. It was like a weekly basis. Will Levis would throw the worst turnovers at the worst possible time and lose the game, and or their special teams would do something idiotic and lose that way. They have fixed their special teams. They have Cam Ward, who I'm very high on Cam Ward. They have Cam Ward at quarterback now. And they still have those pieces that I think their core was very good last year. Not very good, at least good. I think this Titans team might be the most underrated team heading into the season. I actually don't even mind the Titans at 7-1 to win the AFC South. I certainly love them at +8 against the Denver Broncos. And you know what? I bet this last night. That line might have even moved even further. I think, did I see an 8.5 earlier? No, it's down to 7.5. So I don't know if there's an 8. Where did I get this 8? I got the 8 at Caesars. Is the 8 still available at Caesars? By the way, I meant to record this Monday night. By the time I was done all my notes and my picks, it was too late. So these picks are 1 day old. Yeah, the +8 still available at Caesars. So actually the line has not moved at Caesars. I think the Broncos take a step back. Yes, their defense was elite. You go through the list of quarterbacks they had to face last year, it was bad. And their offense was, even against those bad opponents, their offense was not good. It was average, truly. EPA, yards per play. I know everyone's singing the praises of Bo Nix, but that offense was fine. Not great. I think this is a crazy spread to set for a week 1 game. I don't think the Broncos deserve this, and I don't think the Titans deserve this. I will take the Titans +8, -110. 49ers and Seahawks. Obviously, I'm very high on the 49ers. I think they can bounce back this year. I think last year was some of the worst luck that a team has ever had in NFL history. They actually had the highest DVOA of any team in NFL history who had double-digit losses. They also ranked second in the NFL behind only the Ravens in net yards per play at +1. But bad injury luck and terrible late game variance cost the 49ers their a lot of wins last year. I think they bounce back big, and I think they can beat the Seahawks, who I'm not yet convinced that Sam Darnold is going to have a year like he did last year. It's hard for me to forget about 5 years of bad Sam Darnold after one good year and a bad last couple of games. Maybe he can. Maybe he'll be good with the Seahawks. Also, don't forget, Seahawks don't have Tyler Lockett. They don't have DK Metcalf. Their offensive weapons aren't the same. I'm not very high on the Seahawks this year, whereas I'm very high on the 49ers. I will take San Francisco -2.5, -110. Texans and Rams. This sticks with my theme that I've talked about all show, which I will make my picks based on how I feel these teams are based compared to how the market is evaluating them. The market is very high on the Rams. I am not. I think they were not as good as the record showed last year, and now they have an injured Matt Stafford. A Matt Stafford who's 37 years old and has a back issue. That's not a good combination. It's also worth noting a lot of the issues that Texans had last year was because their offense coordinator was a Bobby Slowick. He was terrible. They got rid of him. They brought in Nick Caley as their offensive coordinator, and that's notable because Nick Caley was the Rams pass game coordinator from a season before. That's key, and that's something that I don't think a lot of people are talking about. The Rams, very good with their pass game last year, and a big reason of that was because of their pass game coordinator. That pass game coordinator is now in Houston, which is a minus from the Rams. That's a very big positive for the Texans, and in this matchup specifically, he's going to know how to attack a Sean McVay-led team. He might have a little bit of inside info here in terms of game planning against the Rams. So I think a lot of things are working in the Texans' favor in this one. And I do think I like the Texans better than the market does, and I don't like the Rams as much as the market does. So all of those things line up for me to back the Texans +2.5, -105. Lions and Packers. I took the Packers in this one, -2.5, -110. At Lambeau Field. I'm very high on the Packers this season, and this is not because of Micah Parsons. This is actually pre-Micah Parsons. I think last year, the knee injury to Jordan Love early in the year hurt them a lot. And I think they were actually better than their final record showed. Third in the NFL in net yards per play last season, behind only the Ravens and the 49ers. 8th in EPA per play. 4th in opponent EPA per play. Their defense doesn't get the credit they deserve. And now you add on Micah Parsons on top of that. I'm very high on the Packers this season, higher than probably in line with how the market views them now that they have Parsons. Meanwhile, the Lions, I do think they'll take a few weeks to find their footing with their new offensive and defensive coordinators. I think losing both is tough. I think they can survive it, but I think they're still a playoff team. They might even win the NFC North, but I do think the Lions take a small step back. On the road, at Lambeau Field, against the Packers, Week 1 is a nightmare Week 1 matchup for the Lions. They might win the second game in Detroit between these two teams, but I do not trust them in this spot. I will take the Packers -2.5, -110. The Ravens and the Bills, I think the Ravens are the best team in the NFL. They are my Super Bowl pick. So as a pick 'em, even though it's in Buffalo, I will take the Ravens -108. I know the Bills beat them in the divisional round last year. I think that was largely due to a slow start by the Ravens. And you just have to love how the team that I think was still the best team in the AFC last year, they got even better in the offseason. Malachi Starks, I think, is a fantastic addition at safety. Don't forget Jair Alexander. That was a move that people have kind of forgotten about. They have Jair Alexander at cornerback. DeAndre Hopkins, he's not going to be a huge weapon on offense, but he's at least a veteran that can help that offense or that wide receiver room out. And the Bills just didn't quite do enough for me to think they're the better of the two teams here. I think the Bills are going to win the division. They're going to be, deep in the playoffs. But if you're going to give me these two teams at a pick 'em, even with it being in Buffalo, I'll take the Ravens in that spot. I think they're too dynamic, too good defensively, much better defensively than the Bills are. That's not even a question. If the Bills win this game, it's because Josh Allen has dragged them to the win. I'm not ready to bet on the Bills just because of Josh Allen. I will take, and you know what? You know when home field advantage would really work in the Bills' favor? If this game was in December or January. Early September is a perfect time for Baltimore to be playing in Buffalo. A lot of things are working in Baltimore's favor here. I will take the Ravens -108. That is for Sunday Night Football, so that leaves us with Monday Night Football. It is my underdog pick of the week. I'm going to take the Chicago Bears +115 to defeat the Minnesota Vikings. If you've heard me talk about the NFL at all offseason, you've heard me rant about J.J. McCarthy. I do not know why people are high on J.J. McCarthy, a guy who has yet to play a snap in the regular season. A player who, when he was drafted, nobody liked. Everyone said that Michigan won the national championship because of the team and the coaching around him, not because of him. But now, a year later, having played 0 snaps in regular season NFL, everyone's already talking like he's a great NFL quarterback without him actually proving it. I need him to prove it. I don't care about the weapons Minnesota has. I don't care about Kevin O'Connell being the coach. I don't think all those things can make up for an average or a bad quarterback, and I need J.J. McCarthy to prove it before I believe it. Now the Bears, you could ask the same question about Caleb Williams, who we have seen play in the NFL and who has not looked great most of the time, but you can't deny the improvements the Bears made. They completely beefed up the offensive line. They stole my center, Drew Dahlman. Ben Johnson, I think he's going to be a great coach. I think he's going to be able to help Caleb Williams get over some things. And for that reason, I like the Bears as home underdogs in this spot. I think the Vikings are being way overvalued. No one's even questioning J.J. McCarthy, which is crazy to me. Crazy. I will take the Bears home underdogs against the Vikings on Monday Night Football. All right, usually what I do at the end of these shows is I write down my favorite, or I give you my top 5 best bets. If you only care about my best bets, I forgot to write that down. This time, still kind of getting used to the flow of things again. But I can tell you what my best bets are. For those of you, this is generally for those of you who only want to bet 5 plays, or if you're in a pick'em league and you want my 5 best plays. Let's just go down the list and I'll give them to you now. Not Thursday, not Friday. I like the Bengals -5.5. That would be one. Cardinals -6.5 would be another. Dolphins +1.5 is another. Buccaneers -2.5 is another. And then Titans +8. Actually, you know what? I'm going to get rid of the Cardinals, and I'll toss in the Texans instead. So my 5 best bets for this week are Bengals to cover, Buccaneers to cover, Dolphins to cover, Texans to cover against Rams, and Titans to cover against the Broncos as pretty significant underdogs. My survivor pick. Wasn't there something else that I did? Oh, I did a teaser of the week. I need a teaser. Survivor, I'll give you that first. Survivor pick of the week, I'm going with the Cardinals. I'm going to avoid the Broncos-Titans. I'm going to hope the Titans can pull off the upset to eliminate a large group of people, because I'm guessing a ton of people are going to be on the Broncos this week. I'm going to take the Cardinals. Keep it pretty simple here. I will take the team. Yes, they are on the road, but they're, minus 290 favorites at FanDuel. I think the Saints are the worst team in the NFL. And I think if you're going to pick the Cardinals in Survivor, you do it early in the season, as I talked about earlier. So I think now is the perfect time to take the Cardinals. They are my Survivor pick. You want to play it relatively safe in week 1 until you get a little bit of a better idea of how good or how not good these teams are. So I think it's pretty safe to say a Spencer Rattler-led Saints team is going to be bad. So I'll make a relatively safe pick in week 1. My Survivor pick is the Cardinals. If you're in my Survivor pool, go ahead and tail that if you want. But then if I lose, you lose too. So you might want to go a different direction. Please sign up for my Survivor pool. Link in the description below. Teaser of the week. We need a 6-point teaser. Cardinals are actually an obvious pick. We're going to take them from 6 down to 0.5. And of course, with teasers, you want to cross key numbers. 3 and 7 being primary numbers. 10 and 6 being secondary numbers. Ravens plus 1.5 to plus 7.5. That gets you across key numbers of both 3 and 7. And then Cardinals from 6.5 down to 0.5. That's perfect. That crosses the secondary number of 6 and the primary number of 3. So Cardinals minus 0.5, Ravens plus 7.5. That is my 6-point teaser of the week. I gave you that. I gave you my Survivor pick. I've given you all my picks for week 16. The final announcement, which I probably should have said at the start of the show, my new show with SI Sports Illustrated. It'll be airing on YouTube Monday to Friday, starting tomorrow is the first episode, or today if you're listening to this on Tuesday. It'll be available on the Sports Illustrated YouTube channel. It'll also be available on SI TV, which is a free channel that you can get on your smart TV starting tomorrow, and I believe it is airing 2 o'clock and 6 o'clock, I think. It's airing twice each day. 2 o'clock is definitely the first time, I believe. The other time is either 5 or 6, but I will confirm that. I'll tweet about it when I know for sure tomorrow. But it is called Making Moves with Mac. Check that out both on the Sports Illustrated YouTube channel and SITV, which is a free-to-watch channel on smart TVs. I will take a video of a guide of how to find that on your television tomorrow or Wednesday. All right, thank you all so much for watching and listening. Subscribe to the Bacon Bets podcast on YouTube. Rate and review this podcast wherever you listen to it, the audio version of it. Best luck with all your bets. Gamble or bless. Sunday is the best day of the year. Sunday, week 1 of the NFL season, is the best day of the year. Let's enjoy. Good luck with your picks, and I'll talk to you all next week.